Simply having our UV map doesn't really do a whole lot of good for our final product unless we pair it with a texture. Some sort of image or graphic that can be displayed on our cube really will bring it to life. So working in two parts, we have our UV editor on the left side and our preview on the right, and we can load our image in both places. Loading it on the left is a bit more of like a tracing image. Loading it on the right is really where it's going to apply on the render. Let me show you what I mean. On the left hand side, we can find this folder button that says open. To open an image, I can go to my 3D modeling folder and find a simple wood seamless texture and click open. When I do that, it lays the wood texture behind my wireframe lattice, and this gives me information about how that image would be applied to my cube. But if you notice, it didn't automatically update on the right. Now, why is that? And it's because this left-hand side is merely a guide. The right-hand side is actually where our rendering takes place and where our material is and so forth. So to actually do something about it, let's go ahead and get into our material tab. And you can see I have this default gray material applied to my object, but I have no texture under my base color. We need to change this. If I want this wood texture to display on my cube, I have to put it into the base color channel of my material. So I'll click on this little dot. That opens up my, my base color chooser, and I can go to image texture. Once I click on image texture, I can click the folder for open. I will go back to my 3D modeling folder. I will find the wood dark trim, wood dark warm seamless texture, and click open. That has applied the material to my object. I click assign, and oh no, what is happening? So this is something that gave me a lot of trouble when I was first kind of getting into Blender, because this works a little bit differently. If I go back to my layout, if you recall, we have a few options. We have the viewport shading, which is the default, but we also have this textured viewport shading, which shows me my texture and the rendered output. So we need to make sure that we go into our layout and change the viewport shading from solid mode to textured mode. Then when we go back into UV editing, our problem is, what's this? Still not solved. And that's because these different layouts use different settings for that viewport shading. So we've changed it in layout, but we haven't changed it in editing yet. So you have to press the Z key to bring up your different shading properties for this view, and then you can choose from solid to rendered or material preview. So I'll do the material preview, and then our problem is solved. So in terms of getting your textures to display with UV maps, this step is essential. So you have to have a material applied, and you have to update your UV editor layout shading method to see your texture. So make sure that that is on rendered or material preview. Once you do that, you can hit the A key to select all, and then you can actually see how this is now applied. So if I were to move my object around, I can see that this object, or this polygon here, let's go back into faces mode. If I select it, you can see that it is indeed mapped to where that knot is in the wood on my UV preview. So if I go to, say, this one, I can see that that one's located, that face is located on the bottom, where that, we'll call it kind of this V shape is. And as I move around my object, I can see that a vertical column on this like Z-axis here is made, and then the two end caps are kind of that top piece in this cross. So here's kind of the chunk or the trunk of my cube, and then the top and bottom are displayed that way. So that's a quick tour through the image display and just a little bit of information on how to read these UV maps. Each one of these polygons then corresponds to a place on your cube, and now you can kind of see, almost like an unwrapped paper craft object, how that display happens.